Kavanaugh's selection is surprising in one sense. He's somewhat of a John Roberts clone. His resume, his writings come closest to John Roberts. That's a little surprising since President Trump once called John Roberts a disaster on the court. Kavanaugh is the perfect candidate for many Republicans in Washington. He is, in fact, someone who has been tailored by the conservative legal community, the establishment in Washington. They couldn't have produced a better choice if, he is virtually raised hydroponically in the basement of the Federalist Society. He is someone who really follows that very conservative, button-down view of the Constitution. I expect that some Democratic senators will have trouble opposing Kavanaugh. Those senators up for the midterm elections in purple states could find this a difficult vote, to say the least. Kavanaugh is the perfect wedge nominee. He can wedge these Democratic senators away from conservative and independent voters on this issue. Kavanaugh is unlikely to make a lot of mistakes. He tends to be buttoned down. He tends not to go too far off the script. So for these Democratic senators, this vote could be quite important, not just to the country, but to themselves.
Good to see you.
The odds are is that Kavanaugh will make it through confirmation, and it's very likely that he will pick up a couple of Democratic votes. The question will turn entirely on whether some Republican senators really mean it, that they want assurances about Roe v. Wade, or they want assurances about his view of presidential power. They really aren't going to get that. What a nominee gives these senators is plausible deniability. They simply mouth the same mantra that Roe was settled a long time ago and that precedent should be respected. It means perfectly nothing. But it can be a lot to a senator who needs to go home and say, well, I just trusted him. Well, I think it's nonsense when people say that he would have to recuse himself if a Trump-Mueller issue came before the court. Just because a president appointed you doesn't mean that you are biased and that you can no longer render a decision affecting that president. That was not the case with Richard Nixon when people were put on the court by that president. I think that people are getting ahead of their skis a bit, but
thank you all very much, and keep in touch with us. I'm sure you will.
Kavanaugh is clearly better for the White House than Kennedy was in terms of presidential power, but that's not enough to force a recusal. Kavanaugh's natural default position is Article 2 in presidential power. He tends to defer greatly to presidents. That can only help President Trump if an issue goes before the court. But that's his philosophy. It doesn't mean he's biased. These people have long-standing jurisprudential views. They should. We want them to have that. Yeah, there's no reason why nominees cannot speak about how they view